Have you ever lost a Christian friend and wondered why it hurts so much? How do you heal when a Christian friend cuts you off or slowly drifts away? You ask God, why did He allow this friendship to break up? What if God is actually protecting you from this very painful breakup? So, our topic for today is Christian friendship breakups. Hi, beloved, this is Doc Gilbert, and I am a Christian clinical counselor and psychologist. So, welcome to our newest episode, and we're gonna talk about another painful topic, and which is very true for many people, even among Christians. And this is also, very common among my counseling stories where they've lost friends along the way, as they heal, as they come to know themselves, as they grow in their boundary, their acknowledgement of their own needs, their emotional world, other relationships did not work anymore. And of course, there's no other way to deal with that but to grieve. It's not an easy process, and I can really attest with my own life that I needed to grieve the lost friends along the way, with whatever reasons. And yeah, let's dive into it. Why Christian friendship breakups happen? So there are a lot of factors revolving around that. But first, one of the reasons is differences in values, priorities, or spiritual growth paths. Okay, so of course, as the person grows, have their own transitions, seasons in life, have their own processes in their spiritual journey, healing journey, there will be changes. And these changes actually involves, how these values, their beliefs, their priorities evolved along the way. And when two people grow in different seasons in their own ways, then it's actually making a two direction that may no longer feel aligned or safe for this specific person. So yeah, and also with the spiritual growths, we often look for people where we have somehow the same wavelength, as they call it. People who can understand where they are, understand their process, their journey. And of course, when we have this kind of people, we feel safe, we feel understood, we feel seen, and we don't feel alone, along the way. So that's one of the reasons why there are Christian friendship breakups. And of course, there is gradual relational drift. These are relationships where due to busyness, you didn't have much time to meet or to talk or to update one another. And you have your own adult lives, seasons, priorities of work, and other responsibilities. And because of those factors, there is like a gradual and slow drifting away of closeness or bonding. And you will not notice until it took already months and years, that you haven't update one another and talk with one another. So that's one of the reasons of the breakup among friendships. And another reason is, seasons of life shifting, whether it may be in one's calling and ministry or personal transitions. And major changes actually bring a lot of losses. So whatever major changes would it be? For example, a person got married, or a person went into full-time ministry, or a person had their first baby, or transition to another place. So every major transition, there are connected losses that must be grieved. And with these transitions, there will be new commitments, new callings, career shifts, changes in the dynamics and consistency in terms of meeting up with one another. And, this change in the dynamic and the frequency of meetup actually brings, this kind of breakup where there is loss of bonding, there is loss of closeness, and you are missing that, in your relationship. And many, for some, it's not possible anymore to bring back the old ways of meeting together, bonding together, because of these major changes in someone's life. And of course, we cannot neglect another factor, which is the emotional boundaries that are crossed and unmet expectations. And, in terms of friendship, especially, of course, with different levels of friendship, but with those who are in deep relationships in terms of friendship, this is one of the forms of most intimate relationships, which actually conflicts would be inevitable. Triggers would be inevitable. So there would be problems, there would be unmet needs. Maybe it's unintentional or not, due to the unheard emotions. And, some friends give much, some friends, do not give much. And, we cannot neglect the factor of attachment style. All of us have our own attachment style, whether it be you are an anxious attachment person, anxious attached person, or avoidant, or ambivalent, or secure. So with the different attachment styles, we bring it in our relationship. So there are people who give too much, people who are relying and depending, on others, people who are expressive, some are not. So, this kind of communication in terms of the differences of it, in attachment, in communication, and of course, some do not know how to resolve conflict because in their own family of origin, they have not experienced that. So, this kind of unmet expectations actually build up resentments, build up anger, hurt, sadness, unresolved emotions, undealt feelings that, for many, if this person is an avoidant attachment in terms of his or her style, this person would just go away and not deal with it with the person. They just avoid the conflict just to keep the peace, but we know that there is not really a peace because the relationship is gradually changing and the person is withdrawing emotionally. So, but for some who are anxious, attached persons, they would, aggressively or intensely open up, express what their needs and feelings, and it would like overwhelm some people, especially with those avoidant attached persons. And with the ambivalent attached persons, they're the ones who are push and pull. They want to heal and deal the relationship, but they back off because of the fear of being hurt, being scolded, experiencing anger outbursts. And so because of this, cycle of different attachment styles and lack of awareness with regards to it, there are unmet needs. And these unmet needs, we know that it affects relationships. It affects the level of intimacy. And eventually, you will not notice that you have been withdrawing and eventually the friendship got lost. Okay, so, and yes, with regards to that, one factor is no mutuality, meaning the person could be open to deal with the conflict, but the other is not ready, and there is no like meeting halfway. And when for some they do conflict resolution, they just open up their emotions, but there's no empathy, there's no validation of feelings, and there's no accountability, acceptance of mistakes, and apology. So there is no mutuality, and without mutuality, there would be no intimacy. So, and of course, that is a major factor that brought relationships apart. And of course, in connection with that, I've been saying this unresolved conflict, actually, break the relationships apart. And, whether it may be short term or accumulated or, denied and buried always, time and time again, it will be like a ticking bomb, and it would be, it would explode. And, the loss, the damage would be somehow irreparable, unless there would be professional help such as group counseling or marriage counseling or individual counseling, just to process this unresolved conflict. And that if there would be a mediator where this person, such as a group counselor or professional counselor or psychologist, that could mediate this relationship. And, as long as there is intentionality and willingness to be accountable, be humble enough to admit one's mistakes, and practice empathy. Many of these skills in terms of conflict resolution can be learned. Yes, many people, including me, have not learned how to resolve conflict in a healthy manner, in a secure and safe environment. And but it doesn't mean we cannot learn that. We can learn that, with proper training and skill and guidance from a professional. With marriage, actually, it's a, you know, skill based relationship. Yes, we know it's love as long as you protect, cherish, support one another. But marriage is also a skill based relationship. And, it's also the same way with all other intimate relationships. So, we can learn those skills. But, this unresolved conflict actually also triggers undealt trauma from the past. For example, a friend did not listen or unintentionally shame this person. It could be a reminder from the past of a parent who shamed him or her. And thus, this anger that is for the parent would be projected to this friend. And actually, that could, go a long way. That could hamper this conflict resolution and would lead to breaking up of friendship. So many do not see that unresolved trauma and grief losses are playing its part. The family dynamics, this unresolved emotions and feelings that we feel towards our biological parents, our significant others, would play a role in our most intimate relationships. And friendship is not exempted. It is actually a place where all these dynamics from our own family, our unresolved trauma, all these unconscious emotions that we haven't faced for so long would come out, And I usually discuss it with my counselees that in our safest relationships, these emotions would come out. It would play out, and whether you're aware or not. So this unresolved conflict uh, becomes complex, because we are not just dealing with the present conflict between friends, but also the conflict from their own biological parents, from their own familial trauma. And that would take a lot of, process and awareness for you to know. And yeah, I took time to deal with that because many people do not understand the role of that trauma, the role of the family dynamics in terms of loss of friendships. But of course, lastly, there is betrayal and gossiping. We call it in counseling as triangulation, meaning if you have a problem or concern with a specific friend, rather than assert or open up your feelings or thoughts to this person, you go to another person and share your problem with this specific person. And that's a triangulation. It only makes the conflict deeper. It makes the relationship at the brink of losing it. It's also unfair and harmful for the other person because it becomes a form of gossip. And it's also very true among Christian churches. Time and time again, I've heard a lot of stories where people got gossip. They've heard that this specific leaders or friends, told this specific person about their concerns or problems. And some of them, they act as a victim. Some of them, spread lies. Some of them manipulate and deceive the narrative of the story. And I tell you what, it's very chaotic. And that is actually a picture of a church trauma. And a church that's supposed to be a safe place became a place of abuse, became a place of darkness and trauma. And that's very sad, actually. That's very tragic. And many from these people chose to just leave their church because they don't feel safe anymore. And even going back to church brought this trauma memories that what if they would be abandoned, they would be gossiped, they would be betrayed again. So this is actually the extreme, the betrayal, the gossip, the manipulation, the deception, and many from these behaviors are coming from narcissistic and toxic people. So this actually brought a lot of damage that led actually to a lot of friendship breakups, sadly. Do we heal from our Christian breakups? I've been in the past years grieving different relationships, whatever level it may be. So it's not easy, but it's also freeing that I can grieve these losses and not be boxed, by this specific beliefs or patterns or dynamics that I've had with this specific people. And one of the ways to heal is it's very important to acknowledge the pain. You know, this sadness, this anger, this hurt that you are feeling from this kind of breakup. You need to acknowledge that. You need to sit in with these emotions. And when I say sit in, you need to feel it in the most bodily way. Verbalize it. Share it to someone that you feel safe. Write it. And even be honest to God. God is not intimidated with our grief. He is actually inviting us to express our feelings, this grief, this agony, this sense of loss, and we need to grieve those loss of memories, loss of possible bonding, loss of support, loss of comfort, loss of safety, loss of confidence, loss of trust, loss of security, loss of the ideal friendships, many from these counselees, I needed to lead them to see that they need to grieve this ideal friendship, that it is perfect. It has, all the things that you need, it is all good. And even in that image, we need to grieve that. You need to grieve that sense of losing this ideal friendship because it is Christian, or maybe you're believing because God formed it and He took away. And yeah, there is a need to acknowledge this grief. Okay, and of course, boundary setting is very important. I know I've discussed that to the previous episode. So you need to set boundary. Maybe unfriending this person or restricting him or her, putting the messages to archive, or not looking at the my day or the post, or maybe expanding your energy and using it to form new friendships, attend other workshops or community or activities or hobbies that you can meet different and new people along the way. So that's very important. And along that line, you need to enhance and maintain your self-care, meeting your needs, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. Exercise is really a must, because it releases these toxins from our body. from the stress of the grief and the process and the intensity. And of course, I always rally that counseling or therapy could be a huge help, so that you can process this grief and even become aware of the deeper wound that is being triggered by this, the mother or father wound or a familial trauma, a relational trauma that you must see. And God is leading you to really face and acknowledge and heal, And of course, it's very important to practice forgiveness of yourself, that yes, you are not perfect, you made mistakes, that you can give compassion and kindness to these parts of you. And even practice forgiveness to this person. And of course, in connection to that, you must learn how to acknowledge the anger, the disappointment, the frustration. And because that's a huge part of the grief, and many times Christians, they find it hard to acknowledge that because they are afraid that they are sinning against God, or really attacking the person, or not being a good Christian. But you are not attacking a person by expressing your anger, maybe on your own counseling session, or with God, or on your own process, or to a safe person. And it's just about processing your internal and emotional experiences. So yeah, you can do that. And of course, you can try to be mindful and continuously embrace your identity as a child of God. So many times this kind of Christian breakups bring shame. Shame that says that there must be something wrong with you, or maybe you are not worthy. You are not worth fighting for. You're not lovable. You're not valuable. But you can reflect on God's love upon your life, and hear also this safe and supportive people along the way, and hear their words. What is the truth about your identity? And that's why I discuss about the reasons why there are Christian breakups, because it is pointing out to you that it's not about you. Yes, you made mistakes, but it's not about you. There are factors that brought these Christian breakups. And I know it's painful, but I know you can heal, beloved. So, where is God in all of this? God is always near to the brokenhearted. More than anyone else, Jesus knows the pain of grief and of losing the people that he brought his life with, the very people that he came down here on earth and rejected him. That's actually a form of loss. The loss of trust due to the betrayal of Judas, the loss of families who's supposed to believe and support him, those people who mocked him, ridiculed him, attacked him physically, emotionally, mentally. Now, those are also loss of people, loss of friendships, loss of loved ones, the very people that Jesus came to save. And yes, more than anyone else, God has empathy for you. He knows what it meant to lose friends along the way. And he validates your experience. He wants to connect with your suffering and make you feel that he is with you, that you are not alone. And many times, this kind of pain and suffering is also his way to draw you closer unto him, so that you can be dependent on him, so that you can hear his voice, so that you can come closer to his heart and experience his loving comfort upon your life. And yes, as you grieve, beloved, know that Jesus is with you. Jesus wants to bring healing to these parts of you, and you're not going to be alone. So that's it, guys. It's really a blessing to share this topic with you. And if you've learned something, you have insights, reflections, awareness, please do share it in the comment section below. And if you have topics in mind that you want me to discuss, please don't hesitate to comment down below. And of course, if you know someone who may benefit from this episode, please do share this YouTube. And yes, if you're new here, please do subscribe. And by subscribing, you're actually helping the ministry of Intimacy Philippines in bringing more healing to many people. So, yun lang. Hope to see you in our next episode. Hanggang sa muli.